Sissy Spacek was my mum. What else do you want? The year my voice broke. It was going to be a telly movie. It was called The Year My Voice Broke. It was actually called Reflections at that time. That was its working title. And Trevor Leishman was kind of like the town bad boy. Trevor would steal cars and drive around and around the racetrack until the car ran out of petrol, and then the cops would be sort of standing there. This was in a country town, and they would be standing there waiting for him to run out of petrol and trying to arrest him. Trevor had a laugh that was very distinctive.
Standard hollow, I reckon.
Which was John Digan picking up on my sort of, at that time, kind of like silly kind of laugh. Like, that's the film that made it so that I made films, basically. Spotswood, known in America as the efficiency expert. He's a working class, gormless boy working in this factory. He wants to kiss the pretty girl, but he doesn't quite know how to do it. It has the distinction of being Toni Collette's first film. It's one of the early films with Russell Crowe in it. And of course, it has Anthony Hopkins in the film that he had made immediately after he made Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs wasn't released by this point, but he had just made it. I probably learnt things on that job from Hopkins, really, that have stayed with me the most. There was something about his ethos and something about the way he worked. He's a very, gentle, soft kind of guy, but you can see in his performances this other world going on. So I owe an enormous debt of gratitude to him for just transmitting that, just passing that stuff along. More than anything else, that's what that film means to me. Mullet. I like Mullet. I like Eddie Mullet a lot. Eddie Mullet is a guy that comes from a small town, just wants to leave all these idiots behind him. Goes off to the city, burns out in one way or another, and returns home to this sleepy fishing town.
Call your mother.
Oh, she's still not talking to you.
Just call her.
Mom!
And that's kind of what Mullet is. Now, this is made by David Caesar, and Davey is someone incredibly important to me because we go back to the beginnings of both of our careers. I did his student film for him when he was still in school. And I think there's this incredible lyricism in what he does. They are really deeply personally important films. Australia. Captain Dutton is meant to be the sensible alternative to Hugh Jackman's, vastly more appealing proposition for Nicole Kidman's affections in Baz Luhrmann's Australia. He's a slightly sort of uptight, proper. A lot of people think he's an English character. Even Australians think he's an English guy, but he's not. It's an old-fashioned. What I was trying to do was do the old Australian upper class speak, which sounds very similar to British in a lot of ways. But anyway, they didn't get picked up on. That's either my failure or whatever. I felt awesome about doing a film for Baz. Strictly Ballroom remains one of the, it remains in my top 5 most enjoyable experiences I've ever had going to a cinema. And of course, he's got the secret weapon. Marty Scorsese's got Thelma. But, Baz has got CM. Baz has got Catherine Martin. And that is that's a combo. Animal Kingdom. Pope is the elder statesman of a really very tough, violent Melbourne crime family. There's a culture there that is a lot more about, guy to guy growing up. It's a lot more about being tough and not showing stuff and having the sense of a threat that you might hurt someone if they transgress in some way.
This is what I'm talking about, mate. I just want you to tell me things, you know? It just kills me to see you living a lie.
Look, fuck off. Seriously.
Davey Michaud, I knew for a long time. And Davey Michaud was a guy who wrote for a film magazine, and Davey wanted to make a film, and it was like, oh yeah, whatever, you know. So does, you know, go on. And Davey had, said, I want you to play this character, and it's like, whatever. The good thing about, you know, being around and being basically a pessimist is you get proved wrong a lot. And I love being wrong about stuff. Animal Kingdom is, without question, the most career-wise important film that I ever made. I mean, without Animal Kingdom, you don't give a fuck about me without that film, because none of the rest of the stuff happened. The Dark Knight Rises. This is the period when I was like, something's going right. Something's really, really going right.
This meeting will now come to order.
You know, I'd like to point out that we have a non-board member here, which is highly irregular, even if his family name is above the door.
Bruce Wayne's family built this company.
And he himself has run it
Into the ground.
That was the first time I'd ever been on a film set of the biggest movie being made on the planet Earth at that time. And I was like, it's just like, it's pretty awesome. I don't remember much about Daggett. I don't particularly care about Daggett in one way or another. You know what I mean? I went in, I flipped a couple of burgers, I tried not to disgrace myself. That was basically, you know, there's very limited, you know, stuff. There's some boardroom stuff going on in there, and then there's all that stuff of I've hired you to, you know, to be my, you know, my guy, and please don't, you know, oh, you're going to hurt me? Oh, this is kind of confronting. But I remember just being on set with, like, you know, there's Christian Bale, there's Gary Holt, there's Morgan Freeman, like. And what I really, 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 really remember having reinforced is this game's exactly the same. Doesn't matter if you're making the crappiest, most down and dirty, shitty kind of indie that no one's ever gonna in the world see, or you're making the biggest movie on earth. Bloodline. I was skeptical and I was touched, and I was, you know, a little bit chuffed that these guys came to me and said, listen, we want to make a series, about, you know, the black sheep of the family, and we want to kind of investigate that dynamic and what it is in a family, and, you know, and they're going to kill him. You know, I never get another Danny Rayburn. You know what I mean? Like, you do one of those guys. In fact, there's a few of these guys. You're never going to get them again. I'm never going to get another Pope. I'm never going to get another Trevor Leishman. There are certain things which, for whatever reason, everything kind of forms up, and the thing in and of itself hits people. You know, people take it into their hearts. It becomes part of their life. They talk about it. They enjoy it.
You sent a load up the same highway that I did, unless you took a detour. Did you take a detour?
Yeah, I love Danny. I love Danny. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Middle manager as principal villain. It's an interesting idea. I have peddled the line, and I will continue to peddle the line, that he is the man that built the Death Star, even though there's a very strong argument that Mads Mikkelsen's character may have. But, you know, fuck it, right? I mean, you get a chance to claim you built the Death Star. I'm taking it. I'm running with it. Star Wars. I mean, you know, I went there. I watched that film as a kid in Melbourne, in the city. Star Wars was just like huge for me. Gareth, he approached me in this sort of super secret meeting, and I went to the top of some Beverly Hills hotel and sat on the thing, and he said, I want you to play the villain in this upcoming Star Wars movie. And I was like, really? And I had to keep a lid on it for like forever. I mean, when Darth Vader turns up on a set, yeah.
Director Krennic. Lord Vader.
Ready Player One. That's the best screening of a film that I've ever been to in my life. South by Southwest screening of Ready Player One in Austin. The first time anyone ever got to see that film in the public. That is the wildest experience and the best experience I ever had watching a film. Miss Spielberg and Kate Capshaw's wife had seen Bloodline and were fans. And so essentially it's Bloodline that gets me Ready Player One. When I got them to meet with Spielberg, you know, look, I'm a fan of, you know, I grew up, I love all this stuff. You know, I still feel like a kind of a fanboy nerd. And I do pinch myself and kind of get a bit blushy and a bit like... Essentially, you're dealing with a film which, you know, is very, very largely in virtual reality. That took an enormous amount of time and discipline. So technically, for him, it's really a post-production piece. But what it meant for us in terms of the capture stuff is really kind of as usual, but in this sort of white blank space where you've sort of got to play tendy, you know, pretendy, about what's where and what not. That's the fastest, most crack crew I've ever seen in my life. The Spielberg's crew is beyond. And there's no one that thinks in terms of camera moving through stuff in real time that I've ever seen. There's no one like him. The sheriff is really, you know, political, modern political speaker, kind of as, you know, as villain.
But, sir, surely the church...
It's a law and order issue. I'm the law and order here. I can't afford to lose another penny.
Sir, it's been a bit since your last confession.
My conscience is clear.
He's a modern kind of political, populist-y type of, you know, operative sleazebag dude, you know? Power, power, money, money, give it, give it. It's really the way that Otto talked about what he wanted to do within the world of Hood that was kind of like the hook. And the world of Nottingham in this piece, which is an origin story, we're going to teach you things about Robin Hood you never even knew. Cheap for the price of admission.